Alright guys, welcome back to Mandy's Southern Stitching. It's been a while since I posted a video. It's been busy. I had one child graduate 8th grade, other one get out of, finish up a year in elementary school, and then my husband is getting ready to move back down here from Maryland. Well, kind of move back down here for about 3 weeks, and then he's off to Alabama. So, but we had to go up there for his change of command, and it's a 12-hour drive, come back. It was a mess. And I've been working part-time at our local pool to kind of have some extra money because I'm not working full-time anymore, so fabric budget is really tight. And just to have extra money for expenses, because we've had a few expenses, as y'all know, in life. I had to put new tires on a car, just had to put a new battery, and now a new windshield. So, yeah. So it's been busy. So we also got a new member of the family, and since we are doing a basic block, which is a cat block today, looks like this. Or you can make it in any size, like, you can even make it smaller. I wanted to show you our new member of our family. Also the reason why I got a summer job. Because she was a little bit expensive. Like I said, my daughter shows cats. She shows our household pets, just our rescue kit cats at the cat show. But when Mr. Smee died, she wanted, we were thinking about getting another cat. So we bought a Maine Coon, purebred Maine Coon kitten. She's a blue tortie. Her name is Nutmeg, to go with Pumpkin and Cinnamon, the other two cats. So we got the Spice Girls. And she is about 12 weeks old. Fixing to be 12 weeks. You can see how big she is. She's already about 6 pounds. Just a itty bitty kitten. But she is rotten, as you can hear her purr. She's just full of love. So soft. So she's going to be our new show kitten, and then her first show will be in September in Augusta, Georgia. So if anyone lives nearby and wants to come out and support Miss Nutmeg, and Miss Pumpkin will be there too. She'll be showing in the household pet adult division. This one will be showing in the altar division because we're going to be getting her spayed here soon. And she is just she's not allowed in my sewing room, so I gotta hold her because she's a kitten. She gets into everything. I mean everything. Everything's a toy. So the other two cats aren't too fond of her. The dogs love her. Oh, and she's so lovely. She just loves kisses. See? So this is Nutmeg. So you'll probably see her when she gets a little bigger. I may bring her down for a few videos from time to time, but right now she's taking up residence in my son's room because she's not quite big enough to be out with the dogs. So we have one dog that likes to hug with her mouth, and I don't want her to get hurt accidentally from the dog trying to be sweet. And the other two cats aren't just too fond of her, and I haven't cat-proofed the entire house, and I don't plan on it. So we're going to keep her in there in my son's room. She's got plenty of room to run and play until she gets bigger. When she gets about 10 pounds and I can worry less about her getting hurt, and she'll be able to go around the house. So that's an update. And now we're going to start kind of a basic block series. As y'all know, I'm a cat lover, so the first one we're going to do is cat block. And this is actually the first block I ever learned to make when I started quilting. First pattern I made quilting was Missouri Star Pins and Paws. And I'll bring that quilt down in a minute, and I'll show you. I did the whole thing by hand. I sewed the blocks by hand, put them all together by hand, quilted it by hand. It's falling apart because, my hand hand quilting is not that great. So, my hand sewing rather. But, so this was the first block I made. Now, the ones I made for that particular quilt were a lot bigger. But I just wanted to see if I could make one on my own. So I kind of measured out what size I wanted. I wanted something less than 8 inches. This one's actually 7.5 by 7.5. And it's close enough. So I'm going to be making a quilt to sell at the cat show using these blocks, this colorway. And I'm going to cut out 8-inch blocks, or 7.5 inch now, since I finished that one. 7.5-inch blocks out of this fabric. It's beautiful Black Kitties floral print, very pretty to go with it. And I'm just going to do a cat block, solid print block, cat block, all throughout the quilt. And it's just going to be 2 blocks for the whole quilt. And I'll post up a mock-up of what it's going to look like in this video, probably towards the end. But it's just a real simple 2-block quilt that I'm just kind of coming up with. The block is not new. This is probably a very traditional block. So I'm going to show you how I make it and the measurements I made to make this one. This was a test block I made just to kind of feel out how to make it. And I made it a lot smaller because I was going to try to make some coasters or some ornaments. And I found I can't make it much smaller than this or I'm going to lose triangles because I am not that detailed in sewing. I don't like tiny stuff. I like big stuff. So this looks like a pretty cool coaster. And I'll probably, if I have some extra of this fabric, I'll probably make a whole set to sell. But if not, this is just something I kind of come up with. But you can make them in any size. You can make them bigger than this. Like I think the pins and paws, which I'll show, is 10-inch blocks or 9.5 or 9-inch blocks. This one's just 7.5. And I'm going to make quite a few of them to do the quilt. And I've got some stuff cut, so we'll go ahead and show you what I got cut. And like I said, these dimensions are for my particular block. You would need to figure it out for yours, and it does require a little bit of math. You just make sure you add 1/4 inch on each side for seams, so they can come out the way you want it. This is 7.5 unfinished, so it'll probably be 7 inches finished. So let's get started. So you need this. I've got it cut at 4.5, but it probably needs to be more like 4 1/4, and I'll trim it down. I always cut bigger and trim down because you can always trim down, but you can't add fabric or it looks kind of wonky. So the background, which is this peachy color, is you need one, probably 4 1/4 inch square to 4.5. This one's 4.5, then I'll trim down. You'll need 2.5 by 4.5 inch rectangle. And this goes for the flying geese for the ears. You will need 1 square, probably 2 1/4 to 2.5, for the tail piece to kind of make it look like it has a tail. It goes right there. I just have to go put little girl back upstairs. And then you also need 2 2 1/4 inch squares. These kind of look like rectangles. I got to trim them down, but these are for the flying geese for the ears. And you'll need a 2.5 or by 4.5 or 2 1/4 by 4 1/4 rectangle of black. You will also need this is 8.5 inches, I believe. And it'll be trimmed down. 8.5 by 4.5 inch rectangle for the body. And you could do just 2 4.5 inch squares or 4 1/4 inch squares if you wanted 2 different colors, if you want to make kind of a calico or just a mixed color cat. But I want mine to all be solid so they match the black cats on this fabric. So that's why I just did a whole rectangle, but you can do two, but you make sure you just add a 1/4 inch for the seam in the middle so that it doesn't come up short and you're not having to trim and lose points. So that's what we need for one block. And in a minute, I will show you how we're going to sew it together. Let me just go take little Nutmeg back upstairs, and I'll bring down my quilt to show you. Alright guys, I'm back. Took Kit Kat upstairs, grabbed my Pins and Paws quilt just to kind of show you a bigger block. So this is the one I made by hand. All it's cat fabric. Very pretty. And you can see these are a lot larger than that block over there. But there they are. They're all different colors. There's two different backgrounds. There's a blue and then the white, as you can see there. But this was a pattern by Missouri Star. I'll link it in the description box if you're interested in doing it yourself. They also have they did a triple play where they did 3 different takes on it. One's called Itty Bitty Kitty Committee, which makes smaller ones like this, and a very cute quilt. And then I have Calico Cats with the Flying Geese, was also in their triple play, which I did and I showed y'all in my basting video. That was actually that pattern, where I basted with pool noodles on my dining room table, and I'll link that video and you can see that quilt. So I've done all 3 of basically the triple play videos from Missouri Star. She also did another one where she kind of did windows. She kind of framed all of these blocks to make it look like cats sitting in windows, which is pretty cool. I haven't done that one yet, but I have plans to do that one. I love cat fabric, cat blocks. I mean, quilts and cats, they just kind of go together, right? Because they all lay on them. So this was the very first quilt I made. And as you can tell, it's falling apart. The seams are coming out because it was hand stitched. I didn't have a sewing machine at the time, didn't want to buy one. Because I was like, well, if I don't like quilting, then I've invested in a machine that I'm never going to use. So I waited until I completed this quilt, and then I was like, I want a sewing machine for Christmas. And my husband got me one. Not this one. This was an upgrade. The very first one was a little brother machine, and I still have it, and I take it to retreats, I take it to sewing classes, and it's a little workhorse. And so, just a little fun fact. So let's get started back working on how you make this basic cat block. I mean, this is basic one. There are some that have tails. There are some that have tails that kind of curl down to the bottom or up to the top. You know, this is just the very basic cat block. So let's get started on it. So the first thing I do is I always do the tail piece because that's the easiest to do. So, and like I said, it can be, you know, as long as it's basically just a folded corner, simple folded corner. So you just put it on here. You can draw your line. You can draw a line if you want on it like this. There's your sew line. I use diagonal seam tape, which is just permanently affixed to my thing to kind of help me line everything up. But what you're going to do is you're just going to sew straight across this line. Sew it in half, diagonally, basically. I just line it up. And I always check it just to make sure that it's sewed close enough. I mean, it should, if you sewed it completely in the middle, all this will line up. Mine's a little bit off, but it's not gonna matter because I'm gonna probably have to trim a little bit. So, as you can see. So what I do is I trim off this top portion here above the sew line. My scissors, I walked off both sets. So we'll just use our rotary cutter for now. And we sew that off. And some people save those, but those are too small for me to save. So, and then you'll press it, and I'll press it with the iron in a minute, but there's your tail. Now you can make them go in different directions, and you would obviously just, instead of putting it here, you would move it over here and move everything to the right like that quilt I showed you had cats going in different directions. This one, I'm just going to do them all in one direction because it's just simpler. That way I'm not getting confused and mis-sewing, and I don't have a lot of this background fabric, so I don't have a lot of room for error. So we're going to do it all one way. But you can definitely do them to right facing or left facing. Alright, so press that out and just set it aside. We're going to do nothing with this right now. So we're going to set it right here so that we know where it goes. And next, we're going to do these lovely flying geese ears. So, and what I'm going to do is trim up my square. What did I do? We're just going to trim up the square here. Just kind of match these. Yes, we can. And now we're going to do the same thing. Now, since this is black, if you've got a chalk pen, that works. But you're going to do the same thing. You're going to sew diagonal. You got to look to see how your ears are going to be positioned. So we're going to go from the top right to the bottom left of this particular rectangle. And before you trim, just check to make sure your ears are going the right way. I always do that. Just to make sure. So I'll turn it like this. And as you can see, the ears go the right way. Before you cut. And you do the same thing. You'll do the top left to the bottom right. Always double check before before you cut. Make your final cuts, because once you cut, you can't go back. And we're going to press this out. And it's a little wonky, and I can straighten it up. While you do, make sure your seams are straight. This one had a little bit of a curve in the sewing line. They're a little wonky. It's dark, but we fix it. So here we are. We have ears. We're going to sew our ears on top of our black rectangle. So I just fold them forward. Got the head. We're going to press it. Okay. And then now we're going to add our rectangle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure this bad boy here. See, it looks like we're at 1, 2, 3, 4, basically 4 1/4. I'm going to trim this down to 4 1/4. Straighten it up. So basically I'm going to trim this down to 4 1/4. Maybe 4. Start with 4 1/4, and you just trim it out. Pop, pop. FedEx. FedEx is here. Puppies are excited. Okay. So, yeah. So what we'll do, this one's come out a little short, that's fine. We'll trim it. Straighten it up. That way it comes out just fine. So we sew the head to this one square, just like that. Press it out. Pop, pop. Okay, pop, pop. All right. So now we are going to put the bottom half of the body onto the top of the half. And because I made this bigger, before I trim down, I'm just going to line it up so that this end is on this end. And you're going to see there's going to be some extra on that end, and that's fine, and we'll cut it down when we're done. Sew it. Here we are, we're just going to trim him up and even him up, press it out. What I do is just take, line up this bottom part on the line. Trim it up to 7 1/2. Got a little bit of waste on this side. Does not want to come off. I've got to change where we cut it. That should have come off. about 7 1/4, but it'll be all right. So they're about the same. One's a little bit smaller, but as you can see, we have 2 now. Very simple. It's a very simple block. Like I said, it's the first one I ever made, and you know, have flying geese, folded corners, so it's a very good skill builder to get, you know, some accuracy going on. But it's very forgiving. So, because if you mess up, you can just trim down a little bit. As long as you don't mind losing a few points, it'll be just fine. So that's it. This is our basic block, series number 1, the cat block. And I will post a finished picture of the quilt once it's done.